Okay, so your fairly recent research shows that I think nearly half of MSP clients expect more proactive communication. And in terms of how that actually plays out, I suppose, what does that mean, particularly proactive service, I guess, for, what does that mean for MSPs and what therefore will their customers note or should they notice?
Yeah, it's great. I think this is a trend that's been coming for a number of years now. And I think it's probably driven by the B2C industry, if we're honest. So if we think about ordering something from Amazon now, we don't have to go and ask Amazon when it's going to arrive, right? We expect to have push notifications, proactive notifications pushed towards us. And what Amazon does, obviously many others follow. So that's becoming the norm in the B2C world. And of course, what consumers are finding is when they turn up to work, they're expecting the same experiences in their work lives as they have in their personal lives. And so now, in short, it's incumbent on managed service providers in particular to live up to that expectation. So, if I'm going to get push notifications, proactive notifications of where my parcels are, why can't I be told if my service is down proactively, or perhaps I'm over capacity on my storage, or approaching a bandwidth cap? I expect to be proactively notified of that. Many MSPs are rising to the challenge, so actually the ones that don't start to get left behind, and so it's a level of expectation that's being elevated.
Okay, and maybe continuing in that theme, I think again the research shows that customers are increasingly expecting MSPs to be a strategic partner rather than just this IT support role. Are there any particular sort of capabilities, behaviors you think define being a strategic MSP, as we look ahead into 2026 in particular?
Yeah, I think this trend probably started with MSPs, particularly probably starting as telcos, selling just connectivity. And then, of course, from the telcos perspective, they were saying, well, since we're selling you some connectivity, can we sell you some cloud, maybe some hosting, maybe some security services? And as the customers started to adopt these additional services from a single vendor, they said, well, if we're taking all this stuff from you from one vendor, we need you to be quite strategic in the advice you're giving and not just sell us a bit of IP here, a bit of bandwidth here, a bit of storage here. Tell us what the future looks like, where the industry is going. So I think when you bundle that many services together, you can expect customers to ask you really big strategic questions. So again, it becomes incumbent on the MSP to offer that. And that could be quite a simple thing, from just keeping up with the industry trends to knowing exactly what services customers want to layer on to a multi-product offering. So if I'm taking the connectivity and I'm taking the firewall product, knowing that I also want a third product layered on top of that, that in a way that's strategic. But exactly how that comes to fruition is down to the individual MSP.
Okay, and in terms of security, I suspect AI is probably even more talked about than security, but security is still very much a major focus. Um, I guess for the MSPs, I mean, there are MSSPs clearly now, but there are some not that maybe don't even, sell security solutions. Just your thoughts, I suppose, as to what security focus means for MSPs or should mean for them, whether or not they are offering those services to their customers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there, where there's a security focus and then there's security products. Even if you're selling connectivity or just colo or just security products themselves, you need to be doing it in a secure manner. And that starts from the first engagement with the customer, making sure that any interaction is probably not only secure, GDPR compliant, and so forth. So just having a real focus on how you interact with the customer securely, but then making sure those solutions are secure by design. So making sure that if a customer does want a wide area connectivity solution, then it's secure. It has the necessary firewalls built in. And then we come to actual security products, right? So where can we layer on security products? These could be AI enabled or AI enhanced. I think just about everything is AI enhanced in 2025, as I'm sure it will be in 2026. Um, but there's some really interesting stuff coming out now where, as AI, it particularly becomes to be the assistant, that means for the good and the bad actors now are now turbocharged. by an AI assistant. So if the hackers have AI helping them, you surely want your security consultants to have AI helping them as well.
Again, the report identifies supply chain risk as a major focus as well. So, just your thoughts as to how MSPs who are looking after SMEs, I suppose in particular, and the SMEs themselves sit within probably a some kind of a supply chain. Well, they clearly would sit in some kind of supply chain. What can MSPs do in terms of helping the SMEs? So, but the MSPs adapting their controls, compliance frameworks, and transparency as well to work alongside the SMEs.
I think this one has multiple heads to it, right? First and foremost, you've got to look at the vendors that you're interacting with. So when you're running networks, are you solely going for a single vendor? You know, Cisco's great, but it's also so widespread that it means a zero-day flaw in their products could be quite could have a very significant impact to your entire network. Similarly, using Chinese brands, you know, there's always talk, there's always chatter about backdoors in those. So a real honest look at the risks. But of course, and we see this particularly in the airline industry, very few airlines go with just Airbus or just Boeing, right? Because of the not only the ability to negotiate with those strategic suppliers, but the ability just to make sure they're not exposed to any catastrophic issues that they might have. So I think the same applies to any service provider consuming large brands. In addition to that, yeah, of course, there's the governance angle. So, increasingly, I know from our own interactions with customers, the amount of supply questionnaires that we get now and the length of those supply questionnaires is really ramping up the level of questions that we need to answer. It's more detailed, it's more varied than ever. And again, that probably harps back to AI. You know, people are more easily able to help create a more sophisticated questionnaire in that example if they're turbocharged by AI. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you do the due diligence and check it afterwards. We might sort of see a bit of convergence maybe one day when everyone's using the same supply questionnaire because they all got it from ChatGPT. I don't know, but that's certainly something that we see. Um, yeah, and then I know from our own talkings with customers, there's a very strategic angle to this as well, where they're looking at the vendors that they're working with and saying, well, it might be the market leader today, but if we throw too much money and we do too much on a great platform, we feel like we'll be locked in, and and that could be bad for a couple of strategic reasons. So, yeah, it can be it can be a real balance.
Again, I think the report also identifies speed as being increasingly a competitive differentiator. Um, in terms of the practical steps that MSPs can take, whether that's streamlining workflows or just ensuring that they can provide that speed without over sort of putting too much pressure on their teams, depending on the size of those. Just your thoughts, I suppose, as to how MSPs can meet that the need for speed from their customers.
Yeah, our customers are telling us that nothing is present anymore, right? And the evolution that themselves and their customers expect on the service is never ending. So the speed of enhancement to the service is the one that we face the most. So we expect things to get better all the time. How quickly will they get better? Is a provider like POPX going to help us move as fast as we want? Would we rather retain some things in-house? Yeah, and the reason why they want to go that fast is they're seeing the demand from their customers, so trying to live up to that demand.
And then AI, we have to come on to that properly. There's AI-driven automation, predictive analytics, clearly gaining traction. Um, are there any particular opportunities you see for MSPs when it comes to using AI to help improve both, I guess, the customer experience and from their own perspective, their profitability?
Yeah, so we're helping our customers shape their AI strategy, particularly as it pertains to ServiceNow and other cloud products. And for me, the messaging is best summed up as you need to find a way to move fast and slow. Okay, so moving fast means that there are some really good um, capabilities available right now that can be adopted rather quickly. So if we boil that down to, probably everyone in any organization is using ChatGPT in one way, whether it's authorized by their organization or not. And on our platform, ServiceNow have a base level capability that turbocharges those users to just do better at their work, their job every single day. That can be a very fast adoption curve, and you can move very quickly on that and get a really good ROI. But then other customers, and indeed the same customers, say to us, we also want to look at pure agentic flows and essentially deleting the user from the process, right? And have the end customer request what they want, have an agentic workflow, understand that, route the customer directly to what they need, and potentially action it, and then close the loop completely. And absolutely, and the SaaS platform, ServiceNow in particular, are moving in that direction incredibly fast. But it is a slightly more complicated than just an enabling assistant at your screen. So the ability to formulate a strategy that does those two things, goes after the low-hanging fruit and looks at the longer term roadmap. Yeah, it's moving fast and slow.
Yeah, and I guess in this landscape that we've been discussing, customers are sort of being more, I won't say picky, but they want more evidence of performance and reporting and value, I guess, ultimately. So is there a particular sort of recommended way in which MSPs can report what it is they're doing, or just making ROI more visible to their clients, or does that very much vary from organization to organization?
No, I think there's a standard set of metrics now, and I believe so. Mean time to resolution is probably a generally accepted internal metric for an MSP that they want to track very closely. So, we get issues, and how quickly do we fix them? Obviously, SLA adherence is important, but if the SLAs are particularly loose, then you can get away with a pretty bad mean time to resolution. So we've seen some customers, one in particular comes to mind lately. We've broken down every stage of the troubleshooting process from logging, investigation, triage, resolution, and post review. Broke it into all those buckets and really understood each component part of that, and analyzed it, and then set to work on making each part of that as efficient as possible. As I said, SLA adherence, adoption of the portal, adoption of self-service, adoption of AI even. And I think there's a really common set of metrics now, and the MSPs can and will be asked to provide these in any competitive pitch, etc. So yeah, I think it's becoming more standardized, and MSPs need to be more transparent.
And I think the research also highlighted that many customers are, well, I suspect all of them, but in terms of the numbers report, I think it was about half said transparency in pricing and billing is very important to them. Um, and clearly there's tales of, shall we say, that people going in the cloud and not really understanding what they've signed up to. So I guess how important is it for MSPs to deliver that transparency and communicate exactly what it is they're doing, and I suppose ultimately not giving their customers any nasty surprises that that hadn't been, if you like, at least clearly explained to them. Whether they understood them or not, I suppose, is a different situation there.
Yeah, that was a real eye opener from the report for sure. I mean, we work with a lot of our customers on providing transparency out to their customers. So, whilst ServiceNow isn't typically a billing system, or is rarely a billing system, the portal hosted in ServiceNow absolutely has to have billing information present to customers. So we go and grab that information from source, and pass it through, because again, we're used to the Amazon style shopping experience, one login and everything's under that single pane of glass. Customers want that and expect that from their B2B interactions as well. So the idea of having to log on to a separate billing portal from the support portal, it just won't it just won't fly with the vast majority of customers. They expect to have the single pane of glass and put everything under one login.
Yeah, and following on from that customer expectations, they're also expecting self-service tools and or knowledge bases to be provided to them. So that's, I guess, customer portals and creating self-service environments. Uh, where do you think we are now with the MSPs? Are most of them doing that, or is it still early days, and therefore they need to get their act together in good time?
Well, 100% of the customers we work with are there, because we make sure they are, because it's a fundamental pillar to providing that proactive service. So yeah, and actually one of the most interesting things about the AI rollouts that we're doing is knowledge management, for example, is a huge part of it. If you don't have a knowledge base, how do you expect the AI to understand how your frequent issues that have been seen before, can be worked through and resolved? If you don't have that body of content, You don't have that quality training data for the AI to work on. And so that, yeah, that and the self-service request items that we put in every single one of our customer portals, that's how you gain the efficiency, right? If everything goes in via email, you've not got much hope of achieving the big efficiency gains that you're probably looking for.
And in terms of what's really important to customers, I think the research said that the thing they value the most is service quality and reliability when it certainly when it comes to, renewing contracts, etc. But obviously there's a lot of innovation going on. So I suppose that the question is how MSPs balance the idea of pushing new technology solutions, which they think are important to the customer or indeed are, with preserving the sort of reliability that the customers are expecting as part of the overall package. Just your thought, is that complicated or is it a relatively simple thing to address both of those?
I think it can be relatively simple. I think it can also get overcomplicated, particularly when you have an unclear um, service domain and service hierarchy and service delivery model. So I do see multiple different implementations of this from our customers. I do think some are overcomplicating it, and I do think there's often an opportunity to simplify. Often the legacy can hold us back. That's true in software. That's probably true in any technology business, and it can be really difficult to let go of that legacy sometimes.
And a couple more points. The research suggests there's a big opportunity when it comes to outcome-based offerings. So what does that look like for an MSP? And I mean, is this a new revenue opportunity? Is it, how exciting is it? Is it just a different way of doing what you've always done? Or do you think there is a real value and potentially therefore increased profitability to getting outcome-based offerings, right?
Yeah, it's something we've been doing for years, but I do think it's a potential. I see, particularly with the AI model, I've seen some AI companies that are beginning to charge on not the hours to configure it, so not time and materials, not the number of transactions that are put through the AI, so not token based, but instead a third model, which is how much can we save you? And so if the AI use case can deliver a saving of X%, then they get paid. If it doesn't, then they don't. So I think where AI has the potential to harness really big gains. I think you might see more people going for the outcome basis because it means they can probably take a larger share of the fees available if they know they can sort of effectively guarantee the outcome.
Okay, and then finally, 2026, I think the report says that it's all about anticipating needs before they arise. So we're looking at transitioning from reactive to predictive service delivery. Is that an easy transition for MSPs to make, or yeah, what's involved, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember when I started in the industry over 20 years ago, it was all about being more and more proactive, right? So I don't think that's anything new. Again, I think it's something customers expect. I think the level to which we can do it now, powered by AI, powered by automation, has grown. So it's becoming ever more common to do more proactiveness. So I do think it then becomes more abnormal when a service feels particularly reactive. When we order something online and it just doesn't arrive and there's no proactive message to say it, it's very frustrating, isn't it? And it's very unusual. That's now unusual, whereas maybe 10, 20 years ago we wouldn't have been able to say that. So again, it's that paradigm that we see in our personal lives exists in the business world as well. And so yeah, I think it's incumbent, as it has been for a while, to be more and more proactive, and let's see how much AI can empower that.
And maybe just finally looking ahead to 2026, is there anything particular on the horizon you think that people are not aware of that they need to be, or opportunities out there, or is it more or less busy? As I say, AI seems to be the current focus. Is that just going to continue, or anything else that folks need to be aware of?
So I think AI is going to continue, but the bit that we always say to customers is that you're asking for a 5 or 10% efficiency gain, and let's not put all the eggs in the AI basket because we used to find 5 or 10% efficiency gains before we had AI. So let's go back to our roots and still look at those. So yes, 2026 is going to be all about AI, and it will continue to be. Lots of investment going in. Obviously, some question marks about the ROI that's coming back from many of those pilots, many of those trials. But let's not do that at the expense of other things that could deliver, equal, if not higher gains as well. So I think, one eye on AI is absolutely right, but one eye on other things as well.
Excellent. Been great to chat, Andy, and thanks as ever for sharing some great insights into the report and your thoughts as to how it's happening in the real world, if you like. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Phil.